Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Wa nagi wa yagi. Hadan fahmi wa fahmi donta. Hadan bram donta. Welcome back to Somali Speakers. I got the lovely sister Ruweyda with me today. We're going to be breaking down diabetes and depression in the community. And let me introduce the topic properly. I spoke to Sister Ruweyda through Instagram, and this sister has been doing some amazing awareness. And then we contacted each other, and then we thought, let's break down this subject. And I'm gonna pass the mic on to her. I'm gonna let her introduce everyone, and then boom, Sister Rhoda, do you wanna go ahead and grab the mic?
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me. Well, I just wanted to raise some awareness about diabetes and ways in which we could prevent or delay it for some. But also I wanted to touch on depression too, which in our community, I understand to be a topic that seemed to be taboo or shameful to speak about openly amongst each other.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah, I just thought
sister.
it was time to look for ways we work forward to breaking down those barriers.
I think some of the way forward is having some of these conversations, and yeah, I'm spreading awareness. And I feel like sisters and brothers that actually know more in depth is more suitable, and to get more information on brothers and sisters, speak up about it, and let us know that ones that are not aware and what is really diabetes really about. Because I used to just hear man bankaba and hi good kenin banka too, and I don't really know the ins and outs of how
and for the
lethal it
others,
is and what it is. Go ahead, sister.
sorry, and for the others that are unaware of what diabetes actually is, it's basically a disease that occurs in our body, in our blood glucose, also called blood sugar. And when it's too high, and when that happens, you're a greater risk of developing diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And our blood glucose is our main source of energies, and it comes from all the foods that we eat during the day. And insulin, that I'm sure that a lot of people have heard of diabetics using, is a hormone made by the pancreas. And what it does, it helps the glucose from our food that we eat get into our cells to be used for energy.
Yes.
Which is why it's really vital to be aware of what we eat every day. Otherwise, all that sugar in your blood could lead to type 2 diabetes. And it's very common, not only within our community, but in general, with about 90 to 95% of all cases of diabetes being type 2.
So what are the types, and what is the telltale signs of diabetes? Because as a man like me, I wouldn't be aware. I don't know hardly anyone in my family that has it. Maybe some of my relatives, maybe some people. I think I grew up with one or two friends of mine, but they didn't really get in depth with it. I used to just see them sometimes, go in the corner, use the insulin, but I didn't really used to, have Hishod and Hishma. I used to never ask people what is that, me per se, but I don't know. But
yeah,
what? Go ahead.
Well, there is a stigma around talking about illness in our community, and obviously that leads to sort of a lack of knowledge in these topics. And ways you can tell in which you could develop diabetes is by talking to your doctor, and they will tell you whether or not you are pre-diabetic. And this is where your blood sugars are higher than usual, but not high enough for you to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But it does mean that you are at risk of developing it. And although there are no formal symptoms for prediabetes, if you are having other symptoms, such as increased thirst and frequent urination, sudden weight loss, shaky hands, and just a general sense of tiredness, then chances are that you've already developed type 2 diabetes. So it's a good idea to get a general checkup with your doctor.
Definitely. But say if you've got it Say some people are born with it. Some people born with it, or do you develop it? Walala. That's the type of question
No,
I'm
there's
asking.
actually like a no, it's okay. There's like a general misconception really surrounding type 2 diabetes, and it's not just within your diet that you can develop it. You can actually inherit it in part. You see, like first degree relatives, like your parents or siblings that have type 2 diabetes, you are then more likely to develop it yourself compared to those that don't have diabetics in their families. And if you
Okay.
couple that with the fact that as Africans, we are 3 times more likely to develop it, then you can see why it's so common in our community.
Okay. I hear that. Walala. I hear that. So, what, in general, what is it? What is diabetes for the layman, laywoman that don't really know? And what are the myths? What are the myths? What's the misconceptions? And what are our Somali diaspora supposed to be aware of it? Young and old, if you don't mind me asking.
Uh, no, that's good for asking. Well, the main misconception is that it's just through your diet. But
Mm-hmm.
the other one that we as Somalis believe collectively is that it doesn't exist or it's sort of a myth. And we don't tend to listen to doctors, but we do now in general. There's been a raise of awareness that
Mm-hmm.
it is a very terrible and dangerous disease.
Mm-hmm.
But as with before, especially with the elder community, they didn't accept diabetes as being a serious illness.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
there are like ways in which we can change our diets. And as you know, we all have our traditional dishes, and depending on which area of the country you're from, but we're all
Yeah,
known to like love our sugary fruits and
high,
pastas and
high,
grains and
high,
starches.
high saturated foods and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, that is true.
yeah.
And also camel and goat milk that we've
Pardon?
become accustomed to. Camel and
Pardon?
goat,
Said it? Yeah, come
thank
on, goat
you.
milk. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and
isn't that half a model? A lot of us say that's half a model. Well, man, half a model.
yeah, it was very good for us in our diet, but that was back home, and we were accustomed to sort of
Yes.
those tastes and fresh organic foods. But we don't, since we had to leave all those foods behind, since we came to these
Mm-hmm.
countries, we had to find replacements for them. But the alternatives, um, it wasn't so great for us.
Mm-hmm.
Since over here everything is sort of processed and packaged and has a lot of preservatives. And so this whole thing has led to a whole spiral of bad eating within our community.
Mm-hmm.
I find that in general, um, our most common method of cooking is through frying, and a lot of oil is used in our foods. Even our traditional cereals like ambola, like we use a lot of oil and sugar um,
Mm-hmm.
when we're having that. And yeah, I believe there to be other factors linked into our choice making um,
Yeah.
when it comes to deciding what we eat. Things like
Mm-hmm.
our general view that being overweight and obesity are signs of success and happiness, and
Mm-hmm.
also the lack of understanding about how food choices affect chronic disease and how they bring them about.
Okay, when you say food choices, do you want to elaborate on that, Wololo?
Yeah, well, I think with the shift in culture and also with Somali mothers increasing difficulties in maintaining family meal times, which we've become accustomed to abroad, like when we were abroad back home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of this, and when we've come here, we've we've been faced with this sort of rigid schedule of the Western world, and that in fact has like sort of coincided with an increase of fast food consumption. And
Mm-hmm.
you're all familiar with the idea of eating one lunch together as a family when you're
Yeah,
younger,
yeah,
and that way the
uh,
mother could control our sort of diet
yeah,
and portion control, especially.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but with a the whole busy schedules of everybody going to school and work, we've all sort of accustomed to eating outside, and also other environmental factors as well, like the TV ads that make you want to go and get some McDonald's, and
Yeah.
And
Do you think, what about migration? Hold on, I wanted to touch on. Do you think because we migrated, do you think that plays a big factor?
Yeah, it plays a massive factor, especially from migrating from such a low income country, and that can bring about a lot of dietary transformations. And it appears that our Somali community is adapted to like our traditional sort of cultural dietary habits, and it was
But
the only way.
we've got that, but sis, we've got that, and you're saying we've added foreign elements to it. So, and plus maybe it's the lack of awareness because I don't know. Well, I've seen I how often do you think we even speak about diabetes in our households? Or do we even have these type of conversations?
Not a lot. We just sort of keep it under the rug, really, don't we? We just see, you might see relatives and family members taking medication for diabetes, but we don't really talk about the effects that it has on us. And it can do a lot of things to your body. For instance, it can cause blindness.
Amputation? Do you lose limbs? Do you lose parts of your body? Is that a
Yeah,
myth
that
as
is
well?
true.
Because I mean,
Yeah,
once you take insulin, especially insulin,
yeah, insulin can actually cause the
you,
the
mm,
uh, the wa- your the walls of your veins to
hmm
to thin, and it does make it difficult for blood to pass through to and from your
hmm
heart. And
hmm
in turn, that can cause
hmm
some heart disease, which
yeah, definitely. I've got a video clip here. It's a 3 minute video clip. I want to play it for the viewers to explain diabetes more and what it really is for some people that's not really too familiar with it.
Mhm.
Quick visual. I think that would be good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Mm.
What is diabetes mellitus? Normally, after we eat or drink, our body will break down sugars from our food and use them for energy in our cells. To accomplish this, our pancreas needs to produce a hormone called insulin. Insulin is what facilitates the process of pulling sugar from the blood and putting it in the cells for use or energy. Diabetes mellitus occurs when insulin production is deficient. This results in a high level of blood sugar in the body. Without insulin in our body, glucose cannot enter the body's cells and is excreted through urine, which results in its loss. An increase in blood glucose concentration leads to loss of water in cells via osmosis to blood. To understand what happens in a diabetes patient, we need to understand what happens in the normal mechanism. Whenever the blood glucose level increases, the pancreas responds by secreting insulin. Insulin has two functions here. It converts glucose to glycogen and increases the metabolism of glucose in cells. This is how the glucose levels fall and the blood sugar level goes back to normal. The pancreas will secrete less insulin when the blood sugar level is low. It decreases the glucose metabolism and gives the chance for sugar level to increase and return the blood sugar level to normal. People with diabetes are having problems in their pancreas. It produces inefficient insulin, or none at all, halting its effectiveness to process of glucose. This causes blood sugar level to arise from the lack of glucose metabolism. Meanwhile, the rest of the cells are in need of the energy but are not supplied any. The cell's deprivation lead to wide problems in nearly every major body system. Types of diabetes. Diabetes has two main types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1, also called juvenile diabetes or insulin-dependent diabetes, is an immune system disorder. our own immune system attacks the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas, destroying our body's ability to make insulin. With type 1 diabetes, one must take insulin to live. Most people are diagnosed as a child or young adult as if it is inherited. Its symptoms include frequent urination, thirst, fatigue, insulin shock, and diabetic coma. Insulin shock can be described as a feeling of dizziness, sweating, and paleness. Diabetic coma can be described as partial or complete loss of consciousness. Type 2 is related to insulin resistance. It is usually suffered by older people, but lately, this type occurs more frequently in younger people. Obesity is the prime risk factor of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is mostly a result of poor lifestyle, dietary, and exercise habits. Its symptoms include blurred vision and fatigue. Prolonged insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes can eventually lead to beta cell in pancreas to atrophy and stops producing insulin effectively. Insulin medication must be needed later on.
Wow, that's oh. There's a couple of points that I wanted to ask you about on that video, yeah. So you could give us a bit more insight. Type 2. Type 2. I really want to discuss type 2. When they said it's increasing more in young people, more in younger people because of poor dietary, poor health. Yeah. Do you think that's going to be a major impact that's going to happen to the future Somali community with our poor dietary and stuff?
Yeah, you can already see it happening in a lot of our young children now. And it's directly linked to our choices in our diet, such as eating out and depending on takeout as a source of nutrition rather than finding new ways to incorporate healthy eating into our diets. And
yeah,
with the diabetes in children is actually called MODY. And
pardon?
MODY, maturity onset diabetes of the young.
Okay, it's called MODY. Is that abbreviation for it?
Yeah, MODY. It's a different sort of form of diabetes. It's
so what is that?
It's a rare form of diabetes,
and
it's different from
the normal one. What's the difference? Hold on, if you don't mind me asking.
Sorry, it's different from type 1 and type 2, and it runs strongly in family genetics, and it's to be specific, it's caused by a mutation or change in a single gene. So if a parent has this gene mutation, then any child they have has a 50% chance of inheriting it from them. And so if a child does inherit that mutation, they will generally go on to develop MODY before 25 or so. And and the features of MODY are being diagnosed with diabetes under the age of 25 and having a parent with diabetes into more generations, and you don't necessarily need insulin with this type of diabetes, which is way different from the others.
So explain type 1 to me. Give me more of the difference between type 1 and type 2.
Well, type 1 is autoimmune type diabetes. It's different from type 2. But it can sometimes be mistaken for type 2. So it's important to ask your doctor some extra questions if you're unsure about it. And there is a different form of type 1 diabetes called latent autoimmune diabetes of adulthood, which comes on later on in life for other adults. And it develops much slower than type 1, so that's why it's often mistaken for type 2. But in general, you are more at greater risk of heart disease if you do have diabetes, or any type of diabetes. And this is because since if you have higher blood sugar levels
Yeah.
over time, even slightly high, your blood
Yeah.
vessels can start to get damaged. This can lead to serious heart complications. And this happens because your body can't use all the sugar properly. So more of it sticks to your red blood cells and builds up in your blood. And this then can damage and block the vessels carrying blood to and from your heart, thus starving your heart of oxygen and nutrients and causing a stroke or a heart attack. And
Okay.
it's more serious in type 2 diabetics, as you know, their body already produces too much insulin.
Yeah.
And since their cells cannot respond properly to the hormones,
Yeah.
it causes the blood sugar levels to gradually rise. And
Yeah.
that being said, there is researchers that think this insulin resistance, which is what was happening to a type 2 diabetic's body, could also contribute to the development of Alzheimer's. And
Okay. So researchers are kind of link Alzheimer's to diabetes now.
yeah, it's
That's something
more
I wasn't.
specifically to type 2 diabetes though.
Okay.
But they're still not sure as to why this is. But they do believe that insulin resistance could influence the activity of like certain proteins, which stop working properly in the brains of people. These proteins are altered so that they form rope-like structure called tangles. And usually in a normal, healthy brain, the cells in the brain can remove these tangles. But in patients with type 2 diabetes, it's found that this untangling can't happen due to insulin resistance.
Do you think, Valalo, do you think that's to do with this modern, like the modern world and the modern stuff that we're intaking in our bodies? All these like GM foods with these chemicals that are unknown that we're taking, that we're consuming, must have a rapid effect on this. As you're saying, as the video saw earlier, with the increase of type 2 in the younger generation, and you're saying if it's correlated to Alzheimer's, surely it must be some of the foods and stuff that we're intaking. What's your perception on that?
It could be some of the foods that directly correlate to Alzheimer's. Like, for example, there's a lot of research done around processed meats and how they cause cancer, and it's like it's linked to, I think, 18% more likely of a chance to develop colon cancer and other types of cancer from it. And so perhaps there is, there could be.
There could be.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. That's for sure. Important that we look after what we eat and our health.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, you've recently embarked on a challenge, Rololo, yeah, that you've decided to get on a bike to create awareness. Why are some of the reasons why you decided to do that, Rololo? If you don't mind me asking, for Sister Ruweyda.
No, that's fine. Well, the main reason is that diabetes is quite prevalent in my family, and it has been a common theme growing up in my life. Also, growing up, I've not been too aware of what I eat and such, and I wanted to sort of change that habit for myself and raise awareness for others that may be like me in the same situation or want to encourage others like me. for themselves
Mm-hmm.
to do better. And
Yeah.
also
Sorry.
just to raise a general awareness around diabetes as well,
Yeah.
and sort of prevent the increase in how many of us are developing it.
Mm-hmm. And just in case, what would be for your advice for maybe some of the listeners, maybe me, yourself, anyone that further listens to you, what would be some of the advice that you would give out?
In regards to how to change diet, or
Yeah, how to change our dietary, if not. Yeah, sorry, I want to add that bit.
well, you can do little things. There's no need to sort of get rid of our traditional dishes. You can still have those dishes that you like, but perhaps
It's kind of hard, Modern brise pasta, it's kind of hard, And I get
yeah,
it, so you gotta think how will be some of the best sort of angles to tackle this.
well, I'm not saying to let go of our traditional foods, but maybe sort of mix it up a little bit and swap the red meat for fish or even just a vegan meal, and perhaps change the way you prepare the foods. Use less oil and have a smaller portion sizes. And also, it's good to keep an eye on your blood sugar levels in general to see
Would
if
you? Some people, there's a new trend of veganism. Would you recommend that? You yourself,
me
plant-based diets and stuff
personally,
like that. Nah.
No,
There's
I'm
a
not
big
really a
debate
fan
about
of
that as well.
veganism, but
Yeah.
it's up to you really. What? Sorry, 1 second.
Sorry, we do apologize, Sister Ruweyda's. It's not me, by the way. I ain't gonna know. Everyone knows in the Momo, so you know the ones. Yeah, I think it's Sister Ruweyda. I think she got little munchkin in the room, little one in the room.
Yeah, sorry. So I have nephews and nieces over at the moment, so
Yeah,
can get a bit
nephews and
noisy
nieces.
at times.
We do apologize, people. She is big aunties in the building. She's looking after the nephews and nieces. But anyway, where we were, someone in the comment section wants to ask you this type of question. What do you think?
Various factors from processed foods surely contributed, but not sustained. That is true. Thanks for the comment, Jenkins. That is true, but they are contributors in a way, and not only do they contribute to our physical health, but they do contribute to our mental health as well. In
Definitely, health as well.
Changing our moods. Yeah, that is true. As in changing our moods and making us feel lethargic and sort of unfit and unwell in general. You can lead to depression and anxiety if not taken care of.
And it's really is. You are really reiterating the importance of it, and I big up a lot of health is wealth. That old famous saying, "Health is wealth." I think we take that for granted, especially with Modena. Yeah.
Yeah.
When do we actually start exercising? When do we even really? Apart from yeah. I think something that we don't even really you don't really highlight. How much do you see of us in every day walking, jogging, slama? You don't really see that in our community, innit? Or do you think they just don't have the time? Or it's not part of our lifestyle?
I like to think it was part of our lifestyle. Back home when we had the space, when I had our own space and to do our things. But there are actually a lot of studies that were completed on the Somali community in regards with exercise. And they all came to a sort of similar conclusion, whereby the elder Somali men showed disinterest or sort of little value towards healthy eating and exercise. And
I think the older generation do, but I think I see a lot of Odiyal Walla, especially during COVID. I see a lot of them. I see a shift changing patterns, but I think it's
Yeah,
just
there
drilling
has
it in
been.
more to yeah.
Yeah,
I've
there
seen a
has
shift
been.
patterns because I've seen one or two of the other trying to jog in and all of that.
Yeah, I see that myself too now.
Yeah.
But over the years, it was more of
Yeah.
the mothers that were more interested
Yeah.
in exercise and healthy eating
Mm,
habits.
yeah.
And
Depends, Malala, because I see a couple of sports facilities, especially where I live in Tottenham, Malala. I see a lot of the now picking up, especially during COVID and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I think it was when people had more spare times in their hands. But
That is
especially I've been out
true.
in the morning. I did start seeing it creeping into our community, but I think it's a bit like I've always said, Malala. I think the Somali community were very reactive and a very proactive community. Until قف وحكوا دعدو يوحى, we don't really implement it too tough. You understand?
Yeah, I understand. But yeah, we are sort of coming to understand the importance of exercise now. And I think it was too difficult for us to find sort of a space that we felt comfortable, especially as women, to exercise freely, especially in the West as well.
Do you think that's just the stigma? Because with men, you could just go to the gym, you could run around, especially with Dumarkan, obviously with
Yeah, I thought
internet
you guys
where
have.
where there's hardly less facilities for Dumarka, per se. Dumarka Muslimin or Somalia. What do you think?
Yeah, there is less space for us, but now I'm seeing an incline in sort of gyms opening, ladies only spaces, and even our Muslim sisters opening gyms for women, so they can exercise with privacy.
Do you think more women should encourage more women, especially Dumarkan, especially the younger sisters, have these conversations with a lot of the, Dumarka Wawin? Because this is one thing
Yeah,
I had this
definitely.
conversation really. I had this conversation recently with a couple of Habla now. They're like really dumb because some ways they're very communicational, but they don't really communicate sometimes in a way. Do you get where I'm coming from? Because
Hmm.
I literally, if I, my local sports hall, Habinki, Walla, there's always like Ramadan tournaments or the Asha. I see a lot of them actually playing football coming together, but I think it's upon on us to get this message out there to both genders, not even just one gender, more specifically, yeah, to start getting in, exercising with valid intent and making it more of a subject. But do you
Yeah,
think us as
definitely.
a community really do that? I don't think we really do. I don't think how many people go up to their dads and mums and tell them, "Yo, we're gonna be doing exercise once a week." I think we need to
Uh,
start making stuff like that more. I don't know, accessible, cooler. I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know
that's
because I
why I
hardly
wanted
see it.
to sort of raise the awareness around taking the
Mhm,
stigma of talking about exercise
mhm,
and sort of trying to encourage each other
mhm,
to adapt new ways of
mhm,
trying to incorporate exercise in our lives, and get
mhm.
everyone involved.
That's true. That's
And,
true.
and it lets us sort of pave the way for the next generation. And
Yeah,
if we do the work now, then it will just be like good
uh,
nature for the next generation,
uh,
rather than having to change bad habits and having to go through the process that we have.
yeah. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. I totally agree with that. But what would be type of solution? How can we do that? Because well, it is kind of tough, especially with the COVID pandemic, with people struggling. Maybe some of the families with the 5, 6 kids. Well, each
Yeah,
individual kid. Do you really think we're gonna have time? But maybe the new generation maybe might have time to actually do this. But
well,
the thing is
perhaps
with diabetes as
because
well, I think it's an age group that we have to start looking at with the elders as well. I think this is something that our aunties and our uncles that we need to really sit them down and have these conversations with. Go ahead, Walala.
yeah, we need to be having conversations about diabetes with the young as well, and that's where you can make some real change and real impact in diet and choice making. You see, and with our elders and our aunts, we do need to educate them as well,
How
so they
can we do
can.
that? With the youngers, especially with a generation that grew up on takeaway and
Yeah,
stuff
it
like
is
that,
going to
where
be difficult to have a shift.
fast food is kind of sort of widely how can I say, it's been bombarded them with advertising. If you go out on the road, you're likely to go McDonald's or something with your kid at a certain age. I think that's kind of.
It is going to be a difficult habit to break, really, but well, it comes down to whether or not you want your child to have a healthy and prolonged life, and it's not just, like I said, it's not just our physical health that it impacts, but it's also our mental health as well, and it will severely impact your child's ability to engage in school and with learning in general, and sort of socializing as well, which can bring about social anxiety and other mental health issues.
That's true.
And it is good to make it like an open discussion with your children, to be able to engage in sort of open communication with them with all sorts. And this will allow like your child to sort of connect with you and have a connection to the world too, and not feel sort of isolated, which can bring about other stuff like depression too.
What about obesity? Sorry, not obesity. I said about obesity and diabetes. Sorry, obesity and depression. What is the link between them two? Because I do really hear there's a link. I've never been
those are
obese,
great.
so I wouldn't really. Go ahead.
Well, it's just the general things like I'm not saying all obese people have a bad diet, but for the ones that do consume large amounts of sugar or junk food, you are more likely to develop depression, because it is directly linked to having low moods and feeling lethargic, and that can bring other issues as well, like dissociative disorders and
do you want to break that down? What is dissociative disorders, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, there are three different types of dissociative disorders. There's depersonalization, derealization disorder. It can be a mouthful. There's dissociative identity disorder and also dissociative amnesia, and they're all sort of interlinked together. What they are.
So well, I like to thank Jenkins for the super chat. Big up, much appreciated.
Oh, amazing! Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna put the link to Sister Ruweyda and a cycling bicycle challenge. How many miles have you done so far? Well, let's break that down as well.
It actually starts next month, and I'll be doing over 120 miles to raise awareness for diabetes. And for those who are interested in joining, there is a link that I will add.
I've got it right now for the chat.
Oh, amazing! So there's a link there you can click on and create your own profile, and even a group, so you can make it sort of a family challenge, perhaps. And it's a great way to increase your fitness level as well as raising money and awareness.
There it is.
For a very good cause too.
The link's in there. Ruweyda's challenge or fundraiser, sponsor the sister in the UK. There it is. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. Yep. I really wanted to break it. I really wanted to get into. I want to get into the link of depression as well. Do you want to go into that bit now, or should we save that up? I feel like the diabetes bit is. I really want to get into the type 2, type 1. I don't think like pre-diabetes. I want to watch this video about pre-diabetes. Well, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
I know. We break it down for them.
Yeah, no worries. Oh, you want? Well, basically, pre-diabetes is just symptoms of having high blood sugar level, but not actually having type 2 diabetes. But you are at risk of developing it, a much higher risk actually than somebody who doesn't show signs, sorry, of pre-diabetes. And it's especially good to be aware of what you're eating if you have been diagnosed with pre-diabetes, because it's very easy for you to easily skip on to type 2. And you should be aware of the symptoms as well, like fatigue and weight loss and frequent urination. And also little things that people miss, like your cuts and bruises taking a very long time to heal. Those are also symptoms of type 2.
Say that again. So if you cut yourself, say that again. I wasn't aware of that one. That one kind of took me
Yeah, if your
by
cuts
surprise.
take longer to heal than usual, then it could possibly mean you do have type 2 diabetes. But if they are accompanied by the other symptoms like blurred vision as well, and increased thirst, then you're more likely to have that, and you should actually take a visit to the doctors soon.
Okay, guys, let's watch a video about pre-diabetes, and this will break it down more. And let me just hit the mute button, and this video will be more nicer for everyone to.
Have you or a family member been told you have pre-diabetes? Pre-diabetes means blood sugar is higher than normal, but it's not high enough to be type 2 diabetes. Think of pre-diabetes as a traffic light that goes from green to yellow to red. Pre-diabetes is the yellow warning light. It affects both adults and children, and pre-diabetes is on the rise in children and in teens. Many people don't have any symptoms. But having high blood sugar increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Over time, high blood sugar can damage the eyes, the kidneys, the nerves, and other organs. By taking action now, you can help prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Here's what you can do to help bring blood sugar back to the normal range. First, move more every day. When you're active, your muscles use the sugar in your blood for energy. How can you be more active? Turn off screens and take walks together as a family. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Bike to school or work. What else can you do? Swap sugary drinks for water or milk. Sodas, sports drinks, and even juice can have as much sugar as a candy bar. That's a lot of sugar to drink. Eating healthy is important. Fill half your plate with vegetables. Have healthy snacks like an apple with peanut butter or a handful of nuts. For kids and younger teens, the goal is to maintain weight or slow down weight gain as they grow. Focus on creating healthy habits that will last a lifetime. For older teens and adults who are overweight, losing 5 to 7% of body weight can reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes by nearly 60%. Prediabetes is serious, but it's not too late to make healthy changes and turn things around.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, brother Ahmed Usub in the building. Ahlan wa sahlan. Assalamu alaikum, my brother. Yeah, healthy changes, wallah. Healthy changes. I think that's one of the main key. I think one of the main key is getting more people into awareness and into changing up the diets. That's what I think that's crucial. If you ain't really got this right now, I think it's to pay attention to it while you're at this time of age. That's what I personally think.
Yeah, that is true. I do agree with you there.
I don't
I
think. What
think
do you think? Do you think the COVID kind of slowed things down because everyone really during the COVID? I think everyone went mad on Uber Eats. I don't know. I don't know
yeah,
if everyone's
definitely
like
for
me.
sure.
Yeah, I went crazy on Uber Eats during the pandemic, and I'm really one of them people. I am really shit eater. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sorry, part of my Somali. I don't really watch what I eat, and
Okay, yeah, I think
I'm learning about
you
it today.
get
It's
that
kind of
with
crucial. I'll go through all
yeah, I think that you get that in general with our diaspora um over the world. We tend to adopt this sort of terrible diet where we work all day perhaps and rely on takeaways as our basis of meals. And like you said, Corona has had an impact on a lot of people, especially emotionally and psychologically, which can affect your diet as well. If you're not in the mood to sort of make your own food, or if you're experiencing low moods from depression, then you'll probably opt out to comfort eating, which can induce, you know, further symptoms of depression and anxiety. So you're sort of in this endless loop of feeling helplessness and worthlessness, and then sort of comfort eating again and such. And so I think it's imperative that we find a sort of stable routine during Corona times and during this lockdown to developing these issues or making them worse.
Yeah, that's true, Wallah. Wallah, you're 100% right. You are 100% right, Wallah. I'd just like to say salam alaikum to Ad and Ahmed. Big up, my brother in the building. And I wanted to speak about some of the myths, and some of the myths of this. Like, I just saw fruit juice, fizzy drinks. I never knew fruit juices could increase some of your things as well. I thought that was natural juices, Wallah. So what
No,
can we
that's
eat
a
now? That's the thing. This is the weirdest thing. What can we eat? If it's
that's
that mad.
a big problem that
Yeah,
a lot of people
yeah.
think that juices are good for you, and they can be in small quantities, but fruit juices do in fact include a lot of sugar. And even when you naturally sort of blend your
Yeah,
fruits, they
Wallah.
do release a lot of sugar compared to
Mm-hmm,
when you eat them raw. And
mm-hmm,
so it's good to keep an eye on that and perhaps swap some fruit juices for water instead, or perhaps
mm-hmm,
sparkling water.
mm-hmm,
Changes like these can sort of have a big impact on your
mm-hmm.
health in the long run.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. And you know when they say health is wealth, do you want to tie up the bit where some of the things do lead to depression? Do you wanna break that bit down for
Yeah,
me, Wallah? Go for
yeah,
it.
sure. For those wondering how eating sort of links into mental health, well, um, you see, by regular eating, you'll keep your blood sugar levels consistent, and
Yeah,
that's really important because when your sugar level drops, it can lead to depression. Now, if you starve yourself all day and then eat a meal,
yeah.
whether it be small or large, your blood sugar then spikes, which is followed by another dip, and you'll
Mm-hmm,
be constantly hit by these symptoms of depression and anxiety. And also, certain foods such as burgers and junk food and chocolate should be
mm-hmm.
avoided altogether. But it should be
But you
especially avoided when you're,
can't. Yeah, but say so again.
I mean,
It's the
so to
whole,
speak, it should be
but it's the
avoided.
whole thing. Sister. It's like that's comfort food.
Yeah, but if
I can't,
if you have a
I can't
balanced
really
diet,
say. You know, no one's. I like a little
you have
pizza, a little kebab,
a
and
day for this and that.
a
Yeah,
day.
you
But
should.
you know what? Honestly, yeah, we're carnivores. Well, like, we're human beings. Yeah, really. Like, can we really survive on rabbit food? This is the
No, and
thing.
I'm not asking you to either. I'm just saying to sort of
Yeah, No,
vary
obviously, I'm just
your
saying
intake.
doctors as well. Like, or someone, you know what they say? Some of the good food, they are bad for you. Well,
Yeah, it's true. Like something like potatoes and pasta, which I know we all love,
I'm talking
and meat.
about cake and
Yes, of
custard
course,
and
cake.
darling. I'm talking about the, my anchor. You know them ones, yeah. I'm
Yeah, the
saying
halwa
this,
and whatnot.
all of the good stuff in it. Yeah, I think me. I'll say increase your exercise. I think
Yeah,
it might
definitely.
be a
I
good
mean, I'm not saying
advance right
to
now.
sort of cut them out completely from your lifestyle, but it should be especially avoided when you're feeling tired, and
Mhm.
because it can make you bloated, and then it makes you feel sort of more sort of lethargic, and behaviors that come along with this are stuff like brain
Uh,
fog, which actually impacts your mental clarity. And and just consistent diet and plenty of
uh,
water, it can do a lot more than give you
uh.
it actually gives you mental clarity, and as you know, mental clarity, it has a big effect on the day-to-day decisions that you make.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like Jenkins said, not all chocolates are the same cloth, man.
That
Well,
is, there is dark chocolate
come on.
that you can have that will actually
Yeah,
um, give you health benefits, especially for your
yeah.
heart. But it is
Mm-hmm.
to be taken with moderation, as with everything
Yeah,
else.
I think everything's in moderation. Hold on. Run to one accent. As long as this is the food, I think it's what we're consuming. Cause right now, I bet you some of the people watching us right now are tucking into something and they're like, as long,
Having
for me,
second
as
thoughts.
long as having second thoughts, but as long as I think for me, as long as you're burning it off, I think like
Yeah,
for
that's
me,
what
like
is
right now, it's really
consistent
me because.
exercises.
Hmm. Go ahead, Walala.
Yeah, so as we were saying, exercise is imperative, especially now since we're stuck at home, most of us, all day,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
with no reason to go out. And
Mhm.
as you know, going to work has a lot of movement involved,
Yeah.
and we take that for granted when we're.
Yes. I know. Like I've never like you see for the last year. I feel like since this pandemic,
Mhm.
some people like to say I don't know. Some people say Hulk. Some people just say the whatever. I feel like I've never been at a stage of my life where I've been more lazier. You get where I'm coming from, Walala?
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
when you become lazy, what do you start doing? You start eating lazy food. And now
mhm.
in my car, all the junk foods is like a click a button away. I literally right now I'm looking at Uber Eats as I'm talking. But luckily I had something healthy to eat. I thought, you know what, let me eat something healthy today. But it's imperative we do really need to be we really, really need to be vigilant. We really do.
Especially if you do have family members with diabetes, you
Mm,
need to be even more vigilant um,
mm-hmm,
when it comes to your diet,
mm-hmm,
especially. And you can do little exercises to get you slowly back into the regime of
mm-hmm,
exercising. You shouldn't jump the gun straight away.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
especially if it's been a long time, you could actually do more damage than good. It's always good
Really?
to,
Well, in
well,
exercise, if you haven't exercised for a long time,
yeah, it's good to start
to do
off
what?
slowly and get your body used to exercising and movement if it's been a while.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, Wallah.
And yeah, just small day changes like
Mm-hmm,
walking before breakfast and drinking more water, perhaps if that's an issue for you, and also
mm-hmm.
your sleeping patterns as well. To
Sleeping
get
patterns.
Yeah, you need to be able to get enough hours of sleep
Mm-hmm.
during the day and during the night, sorry, in order to function
How
properly during the day.
how crucial is your sleeping patterns to your health, or to your diet? That's a bit of a that's one that I never thought of myself per se.
It can be quite crucial. Sort of, if well, I don't know about you, but if I sleep too much, I sort of feel sort of groggy and confused, and everything sort of foggy and you're not aware of where you are and such, and it takes a while for you to understand things and stuff during the day, and you sort of feel tired during the day as well, more than you would had you slept sort of a decent amount of hours. And it's also when you feel too tired from not sleeping enough, you sort of get an appetite loss in some cases with some people, and that can affect you even more so because you've already experiencing low blood sugar.
I me myself, I've been having a lack of sleep right now. I didn't know how detrimental this was to health. I've been sleeping 3 to 5 hours a day minimum.
Yes, that's not very good.
4 hours. That's not good, innit?
No, the minimum you should be sleeping is about 7 to 8 hours a day, or perhaps 6.
But then again, so it's not really good to sleep that long as well.
Good to sleep
I
long
like to,
either.
because with me, I like to wake up before 6 in the morning. That's like usually my times. I like to wake up 6 or minimum 7.
Yeah, it's good to wake up in the mornings. You feel more of a connection with reality as well than when you do wake up in the afternoons.
That's true.
Which can have an impact on how you eat and the choices of what you choose to eat as well. And
that's true. I want to correlate this, bad dieting to I wanna add to depression. I wanna link the two because since you really wanted to talk about that in our community as well, you wanted to make this part of the topic as well. So, do you want to go into that bit?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've all heard like the term mental illness tossed about in general, and I just wanted to go over what that is specifically. And what it is a collection of health conditions, evolving changes in your emotions, your thinking patterns, and your behaviors. And often many people feel these symptoms all together simultaneously. And in most cases, mental illnesses are associated with distress and problems in functioning in social settings like work or family activities. And so it is extremely common, despite our collective belief as Somalis of it being scarce or even non-existent within our community. So much so, in fact, that there's actually no word for depression or anxiety or the multiple issues that we face as a community.
In Somali?
Yeah, in Somalia.
Do you know what it is, Wallah? I think the problem is we just got one term, Qofki Wuwashi. For the non-Somali speakers, the person's gone crazy. That's just one term. That's how we look at mental health. Yeah, Qofki Wuwashi. That means this person's gone crazy. That's it. I think that's the only diagnosis we know. Or it's one of the two, all of us is. So it's depression itself, because I've been looking at various mental health, and some of them do come up this poor dietary, poor eating, Hanunkan diabetes. Some of them have been. It's been linked. I want to say it's all of it. It's had certain studies have kind of correlate, but all aspects of it. But the main thing is depression, and what type of depressions are they, and what can get you depressed. It is sort of a. It's just I don't know, when we just say in our community as well, like depression, like you're saying, there's no word for depression in our community. So
and I think a lot of that stems from factors like language barriers and prejudice encounters that we face when we moved, and also discrimination and barriers to employment. And for our youth of our community, we have very little understanding about their experiences growing up in the UK, perhaps, or the US. And this gap in knowledge sort of allowed an increasingly high number of Somali youth being visible in the streets across Britain and the US and a lot of Western countries across the globe.
So do you think a lot of them are suffering from depression?
I would say vast majority of them are suffering in silence, which in itself brings about a huge range of issues, including drugs and gang-related violence in some cases. But the thing is, a lot of these kids are faced with social and economic disadvantages, and as a result, which is a direct result, sorry, of growing up as an ethnic minority in the UK. Now, that being said, there are many ethnic minority groups that have reached like high levels of prosperity, but others, such as ourselves, continue to be experiencing levels of poverty and unemployment.
Do you think that's due to the fact of, and I always say this always comes up, do you think it's the disparity of the war, the fleeing, the amount
of definitely
trauma being passed down to generation that hasn't been spoken about?
Yeah, of course. And the relocation and migration has caused a great amount of stress and PTSD and depression in almost all the Somali population that fled, which is about 45% that repopulated, which is almost half of the entire population of the country at the time, and which had obviously a huge impact on us.
Definitely.
Because these disorders are not very well understood as well, although they have been linked to all these traumatic experiences that we have been through, and also physical or emotional abuse. Like, however, people disassociating after war and conflict, it's extremely common to see this. But the thing is, we don't talk about this enough.
Say that again,
it is extremely common to see this happen in our community, especially with people, since people disassociate after war, and which is why I'm surprised it's not something we talk about commonly in our community.
Because we got the head shut up after heard a lot shot case so دمك الدحل حدو دمك الدحل حدو رجنا على shot case so
that is true. It's true. We do tend to dismiss everything
because we are a resilient sort of nation. Resilient, very the resilience sometimes is good, but sometimes it has a detrimental effect.
It makes it difficult for people to reach out to us as well, which is the main reason that all these illnesses are snowballing. Yeah. And
what do you mean when you say reach out? Do you want to elaborate on that bit? Sorry, just before sister, I put the link on the chat if anyone wants to jump in and ask any questions for the lovely sister Ruweyda. She's breaking her things down. And anyone that wants to join us, let us know. The links in the chat and the YouTube chat as well. Facebook family, you guys come over. Come to Somali Speakers on the YouTube channel. The links in the chat. Carry on, sis. When you said people reaching out to us, I want to hear that bit. I want to elaborate on that bit to me.
Yeah, there's been quite a difficulty reaching out to our Somali community. We sort of tend to hold a stigma around talking about mental illnesses, and we sort of dismiss these illnesses as being like possessed by jinni or part of God's will, which is part of God's will, but in a way, this way of thinking sort of prevents us from seeking psychiatric help. So that makes it for professionals to help us, or for us to ask for help, or even discussing it with our family or friends. And now mental health doesn't really exist on its own. It's sort of an integral and essential part of overall health, like we've discussed before with our diet. And it can be defined in at least 3 ways: as the absence of disease, as a state of the organism that allows the full performance of all its functions, or as a state of balance within oneself and between oneself and one's physical and social environments, such as material and cultural capital. or financial status, which has a big impact on mental health and well-being in general. And yeah, and people in the community need to sort of understand that even though they might think that they are healthy and physically, they also need to focus on their mental health as
Well, a couple of
well
people said on
as a
my
norm.
couple of brothers and sisters, we've picked on this subject numerous times, and a lot of the common theme, a couple of the brothers and sisters have said to me per se, they're like Khalid, SS here. You know what? When you see when you're physically unwell, you تختار بقى تيجي كرسة، مال بقى تيجي كرسة, yeah. But when you're mentally, where do you go? Where do you go? And these professional things actually do they really help? Would they
Well,
help the
they've been said
Somali? That's the thing. That's the thing,
help.
sis.
Yeah, that's the
Because
issue
everyone's
in
catered.
general with
If
being.
everyone's catered to everyone else is catered to something. Maybe something that works for someone else might not necessarily work for that Kenner.
That
Does
is
that make sense?
true. Yeah. There are. Sorry.
Yeah.
Different ways to sort of find help surrounding mental health. It is difficult for us as being from ethnic minority in the Western in society to find sort of a therapy that's catered to us, not only being Black Africans, but also being Somali as well, and sort of about understanding our cultures and religions. But that is why I was wanting to sort of bring light to education and going into a field of psychiatric work that sort of allows us as a Somali community and sort of make our own mark in our community and where we live and such, so we have somewhere to go to when we need somebody to talk to, and we have
But with our people, do they feel like it's they need someone probably they know, a familiar face? Do you get what I'm from man? A familiar face sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, it would be like a familiar face really if you have fellow Somali that you have in front of you to talk to, rather than some random nag adan. You know, there's a sense of comfort and rapport that's already built without speaking as such. And that's very important, because when you're talking about your problems, you need the other person to sort of understand. And being Somali, of course, you do have the upper hand of personal experiences that you share with the therapist. And so it is quite vital that some of us do think about heading into that field of work, which I'm sure a lot of us have already, and there are quite a few Somali therapists out there, but it's just a matter of finding them.
That's true. And just speaking up and speaking to them as well and getting in contact. We've got a lovely sister called Sister Therapy. She comes through, and she's a therapist. We've got a couple of I think Sister Hibbs and Sister Maya. They're both I think they're child psychologists, child therapists as well. So we've got it's industry, but mainly I always see Hablehe in it. I've never seen in the psychiatric field. In the Mehana, I don't know.
What you mean, younger
young men? I don't see because I don't see Somali men would go seek help in that type of sense.
That is true. There is like a whole different sort of stigma attached with being male Somali and having mental health issues, or even just talking about it, and like even talking about going into that field of work. And I'm sure you've already done a podcast on this to discuss mental health in the male community.
I've done it in the male community. I've never actually because again, sorry, I do apologize. I'm not a female, so I wouldn't know the female aspect to it. You know, I'm coming from Wololo. It's kind of hard for
Yeah,
me to speak on something that, you know,
well,
you're gonna
there is a
have
lot of misogyny, so to speak, in our community that
yeah,
our Somali women deal with, and
yeah, mm-hmm,
not only in back home, but in the West as well.
mm-hmm,
And it's brought about by sort of outdated traditions and also traumatic
mm-hmm,
experiences. And there's a lot of
mm-hmm,
ways in which women are through misogyny, like the
mm-hmm,
workplace, of course, um,
mm-hmm,
through emotional abuse, perhaps, but also inequality and at home
uh-huh,
and sexual harassment, all of which
uh-huh,
result in women showing symptoms for depression and
mm-hmm,
anxiety and PTSD and such. And a
mm-hmm,
lot of women in our community have
uh-huh,
experienced um, misogyny, including myself.
uh,
And
or by our community or by all men in general.
well, both, to be honest.
Yeah, uh,
And through this, there's been an increase sort of in symptoms of
uh,
depression and anxiety and
uh,
other issues. And it's also brought about by our culture and environment as well. Sort
uh-huh,
of, we have that um, unspoken sort of authority towards that we give to the males
uh,
in our community, and sort of shun down the women, and we don't tend to have a voice, which is what I find odd, to be honest, since the women sort of run the household
yeah,
in our community, and they don't really have a say in
yeah.
in anything else.
Well, do you think it's a problem that do you think it's due to the single parent households in the West? Would you
Um,
blame that, or do you think it's just a? Because what you say, I don't know, because in a way that there is a counter argument with that, because some of one of the most leading women in East Africa are Somali women. You
mhm.
get what I'm from? So when I compare it to other nations, and I say, you know what, do we really have it that bad, or is that some type of Western liberal type of mindset? Because, like you said, it is kind of odd they run the household. Majority of them kind of run the back, are the fabrics of the backbone of our society.
Yeah, and
And history does stipulate like some of the founding women are East African women doing it big. Like one of the first female pilots I've ever heard in Africa was a Somali woman. So some of these things, do you think it's a thing where we've adopting other things? Because I see a lot of Somali sisters in powerful positions doing their thing. Do we really, really misogynistic our women that much? Are we really, really like that? If you really deep it.
yeah, I mean, I would say it's very, very prevalent and very common in
Again,
everyone's
I'm not a sister, so
everyday life.
I've never been a woman, so I wouldn't know. I don't know the female aspects, but the women around me that I've grown up and I've seen, and the majority of some of the sisters I'm seeing, they're more empowered and they don't really usually talk about stuff like that. But nowadays, I'm seeing the younger generation, and I'm thinking to myself, really? Because
Well, that's
I
the
don't know.
thing.
And so I'm thinking,
It's
I want to be educated out here. I want to know about this, Lolo.
it's that sort of stigma attached with with the question. Is there like a number of
Because we
women
live it,
choose not
because
to speak
Lolo,
out?
no, because it's not even that, because we live in an age, Lolo, because have you ever heard of Victim Olympics?
Mm-mm.
We live in a because victimization or to claim something nowadays is it's a bit fashionable as well. Say, oh,
Yeah,
how I got
that
that, and
is,
when it's not
see, that's like
really,
a thing that
it,
is created by this patriarchal society that we live in. So every time sort of a woman speaks out, we have a sort of counter argument ready to
no, we oppress women. Is that what you think?
yeah, I think we do a great deal. And
Mm-hmm.
and you know, it's like examples, like for example, the notion of a woman who's integrated successfully
Yeah,
into Western culture is snubbed as difficult, or nobody wants to marry, or you know what I mean, or she's too
Not
independent
really.
and such. Yeah.
I don't really know. I really see a lot of sisters. That is. No, the thing is, you see, with this argument, Walala, yeah, it's
But
it,
it's just an example.
it it's an
Something.
example, but there's examples of one ag as well, and I don't really see a lot of Hablena talking about the one ag side as well. Or maybe that's just society. We focus on, oh well, because I've seen a lot of independent sisters with mashallah independent brothers that are
Yeah,
creating beautiful Somali families, but I find that no one really speaks about that side. No one really want to speak about the one ag. Because I can show you brilliant couples that are doing amazing stuff from both
yeah,
sides.
and I'm sure
And for
there's
me, I don't see why we don't prop that up in building our households instead of always saying, well, and then tossing it in and kind of sitting in and kind of. Do you think that's
well,
detrimental as
we
well?
don't really, yeah, it's very detrimental actually to be comparing ourselves constantly, and it comes from the whole taking on sort of Western culture, sorry, to only look out for your own immediate family, and
Mm,
to be in constant sort of competition almost with others.
mm,
And
mm,
and if you couple that with being in competition with the world in general, and the difficulties that we face being
mm,
African and being Somali and
uh-huh,
being Muslim, and
uh,
also being mostly from low economic backgrounds, then
mm,
you can see how much of an impact that has
uh,
on our mental health at the end of the day. Because we don't really, it doesn't really give us room for somebody to talk to and to
uh-huh.
sort of get down and talk
Do you
about.
think some of that? Do you see how you're saying it? Do you think some of that is due to the low self-esteem that a lot of brothers and sisters might have? Because
Yeah,
I see it a lot of because in my community, when I'm speaking to a lot of Somali brothers and sisters, some I see them confidence oozing, mashallah. The majority, I'm starting to notice, and I see a lot of low self-esteem, maybe, and I feel
the
like
thing is, you shouldn't
maybe that's
be
an
sort
issue
of,
in our community. Go ahead,
yeah,
Wallah.
definitely, but you shouldn't be sort of sorry, um mistaken or confused by somebody who's outspoken and somebody who's got a huge big personality on show, because a lot of these people do suffer behind the doors as well from common illnesses like depression, but we all have our different ways of coping um, with these illnesses, and
So what do we need to change
some of
with
which
the what do you think
alter.
should we change, our coping mechanism as a holistic community as well, Wallah? What do you think? What do you think some of the things would be?
Well, seeing as we are like a homogenous community, we do need to sort of make it okay to speak about these things with your children, especially, and with your siblings, perhaps, and parents,
Well, Lolo,
and
Diria Yusuf said,
there is,
someone in the chat, Diria Yusuf said, it really and truthfully, it's all subjective and it depends on how your outlook on the situation is. I kind of agree with Brother Diria here. I feel like sometimes depression and stuff, and do you feel like sometimes excuses? When I say excuses, and I'm not trying to badmouth anyone with depression, I'm trying to say sometimes, do you think that person really needs a reality check? Because I think some of the
perhaps in
society
some
in the West,
cases,
myself, because I think some of the West, especially after generation one, generation two, I think some of them, I see a little snowflakiness. And I mean snowflakiness. Do you think some of us are not
yeah.
designed to be?
Well,
Because
to
the
be
world
honest,
is a nasty place, Walala. The world is a nasty place. It is a tough place.
yeah, that's what
Sometimes
why
to
we
dwell
have
on
to
your
prepare
stuff.
our children
Hmm.
to
Go
be
ahead.
prepared for the world, because we don't really speak openly about things like racism and what and sexism and stuff like that openly
Hmm.
in our
Hmm.
households, and
Hmm.
that's really like going to come as a huge shock to us as
With this,
kids when we go
with
out into the world.
sexism, with sexism, can I ask you something, Sister Ruweyda? Do you think with sexism is? Do you think with the West and a betrayal of because well at the end of the day the Muslimin one here, Deen one here, and sometimes it's good to adapt things from other cultures. But do you think this whole notion of men and women are equal? Because we're different.
Well,
We're
we're
different.
not really.
Equal in ways. Well, I don't mind you getting the same paycheck as me, but I think the gender roles. I think the gender roles in the West, especially in these countries, have been so mixed up. What do you think about them type of
But that's
consequences? They're being that relates to
the
depression as well.
misconception that some people.
Sorry, Walala, you broke up. Do you want to repeat that bit again?
Yeah, definitely. But this misconception of there's a general misconception of feminism and the need of women wanting everything to be equal. But what we truly want is just to be treated equally, and then that's through ways like getting rid of double standards and even ways we communicate with each other within the workplace and within our households as well, and what work we delegate to our children within our households, and how we sort of interact as well. This all can have a huge impact on.
But Walala,
on
do you
your
think
mental health.
gender roles are important as well to realize, you know, are they gonna do more about are they gonna nimban here?
Yeah, of
We've
course,
got
it's
our
all
strengths,
important, but
and we gotta know sometimes. But do you think the West is kind of confusing that as well? Maybe in liberal society as well. But I think liberalism is I think it is detrimental as well.
yeah, and I do agree with what
Sometimes this liberal line
Yusuf.
saying and what did he say? Re-educating the elders.
Yeah, I really do agree with what he's saying to educate the elder Somali community and make them more aware of the impacts of mental health. And they do shrug it off and make it sort of a joke and not take it seriously. And with the depression and mental health issues in Somalia, there's no grey area. It's either sort of you're insane or sane. So when
Yeah.
people who do suffer from these mental illnesses we tend to go to like sort of religious leaders if the elders have sort of dismissed our feelings, and we seek sort of some sort of spiritual cleansing, and which is good, but it doesn't
It doesn't
help.
fix the problem. I've said that
Yeah,
along. Well, you could go to a masajid or du'ain karasa, salabat karasa, but the problem is still gonna be there.
yeah, and we sort of fear of being stigmatized, you know, and being. And stigma really holds a great place amongst us, and it has made it really, really hard to reach out within our culture and reach out to our culture as well from outside people. And this whole our collective idea of mental illness being a challenge, so to speak, God gave us, has sort of resulted in us carrying around this burden on our own, and it makes it difficult for us to ask for help. So because you're sort of scared of being labeled shameful or insane even, and once you're labeled insane in our community, you sort of can't come back from that really.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you on that in that sense. And it's always good to learn different perspectives and different views on things and how things are.
Yeah, which is why it's so important for us to find or create ourselves a sort of safe haven where we can discuss these topics openly, and of course work on like providing our community with some clearer paths on how to change behaviors resulting in
Would you say more clear about tangible solutions? Well,
yeah, definitely, that's exactly what we need.
but where does that come from? If we're very, you know us, we're very individual. We're not a adhesive collective community. We're very individual. So how can that change as well?
Well, to be honest, we are I would say we are a homogenous community, but since we've sort of relocated and dispersed around the globe, we've adopted others' ways of living, and the majority of us relocated to westernized countries, and they sort of have this nature of isolation, so to speak, where everything is secretive or not discussed, and we sort of adopted that nature, which has made it more difficult for us as well as a community to grow and adapt to new changes. It doesn't really allow that flow of communication, for us to start discussing difficult topics such as depression, and so that we can change our ways of thinking and establish new ways.
What do you think some of the new ways of thinking would be, sister?
Well, for starters, it would be to sort of stop stigmatizing mental health and stop dismissing it as
and to realize there's
something
very different mental health, like depression. I think depression itself, is I think it's more. I think it's a very nuanced sort of mental illness as well, because it varies. Don't you think?
Yeah, it does vary in degrees of the different days. There could be days as to which where you feel fine, but when you do feel fine, there are of course underlying factors or symptoms that occurred in the background, so to speak, are there on autopilot, and days where the symptoms become sort of unbearable, so you spend days in bed perhaps, or days disengaged with life in general, and there comes a lot of other symptoms as well, such as guilt and feeling helplessness and worthlessness, and obviously, of course, low self-esteem and confidence.
I keep saying, I keep saying there's something with this low self-esteem. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe me coming across as a confident person, loud. I see it, and I think that's one main issue. But I feel like to do a whole topic about low self-esteem in our community.
Yeah, definitely. Perhaps we can touch on it on another time. But yeah, we do have a general increase in low self-esteem, but I think it's due to the fact that we don't really have somewhere we can sort of openly talk and discuss.
Yeah, that's true. But there's a brother in the chat right now. I love him to come on. His name's A Somali, and he's right here. If he wants to come on and talk about diabetes, because we were talking about diabetes and depression. I think this brother knows about diabetes himself. I would love him to come on and spit some facts about it and some of the challenges. That's kind of good. But with the depression again, like I'm saying, with depression, I feel like I don't want to make excuses for people. This is why I say with mental health, I feel like because it's a grey area, the wall of that, and it's a very, very, very. I don't know, because it's been so taboo in our community. It's like I feel like because I spoke to a brother Abdullah. He used to come on Somali speakers a lot, and he's been through his very, very, very. He went through a couple of sanctions, and he went through a couple of mental health issues. And it's. I'm just trying to think of. I don't know. I don't know where to start with someone with depression. Do you understand, Huno? I don't know how would I have a conversation about it.
Well, the main thing is that the person that are feeling these symptoms have a sort of place to go and be heard, and that's the main thing that you should be doing, is actively listening to these people, so they can sort of bring across their issues, and perhaps from there you can establish or find a way to help them.
Sorry, sis. Oh, I didn't realize my mute was on mic. I was gonna say, do you
Yeah.
think some of our people are too proud to ask for help?
Yeah, it's definitely, of course, there, and it all comes about from the stigma attached to it.
The brother said he's gonna come on in 15 minutes. Yeah, because
Yeah,
he's very interested. I would like to hear his take on it because he's a
yeah,
brother that
definitely.
knows quite a lot about diabetes and he's someone that could bring it from a male perspective.
Of
And
course,
from
yeah.
not even just I know I look at Hannah because I'm not allowed to say male perspective in front of you.
Yeah, it's absolutely
I'm a
fine.
human being. I
I don't
forgot
understand
all
how being male comes into having diabetes,
No,
but
sorry. I think
I'll be
you
glad
know
to
it
hear
is.
it.
Yeah, I'll be glad to from a human being perspective. That is slipped
That
at
sounds
everyone.
that sounds
I'm
good.
not misogynistic. It's not like that. It's not like that.
No, no, don't
I
worry.
don't, it's just yeah. It's just certain conversations I have with a lot of males about certain things, and some of the sisters. It's very refreshing to hear a sister speaking openly about diabetes and depression in our community.
Well, it's good for us to pave the way for others, that may
Mm,
be um,
mm,
reluctant or skeptical to sharing their
uh,
stories.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But again, I'm gonna put your link in the chat again. This sister is doing an amazing bike charity run. Go sponsor her, help the sister. She's doing some amazing work. Go follow her on Instagram as well. And again, I keep always wanting to ask, what made you decide to get on your bike, darling? Am I allowed to say darling?
uh, I suppose for the time being, but
Okay.
I got on. I don't know. Actually, I've had this bike here that belonged to one of my elder brothers here for in the house for quite some time, and
Oh,
and I've always just overlooked it. I never really gave it any thought. But the lockdown came, I sort of, I suppose, ran out of activities
I see.
to take on.
He said, basculating on Coro. Let me get on my bike
Yeah,
now. Yeah.
and so I've become like made the cycling accustomed to my sort of everyday life now. And I came across this fundraiser for diabetes and through cycling, so I thought that would be a great chance for me, especially since I've brought about this sort of new recent liking to cycling. It would be a great way for me to raise awareness around the subject, especially since a lot of us do suffer from it, and we tend to sort of continue bad habits of eating despite
Mm-hmm.
seeing this increase in diabetics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know a lot because I'm kind of shocked. I met a couple of brothers and sisters that have recently just been diagnosed as well, yeah,
Hmm.
and it's life changing, wallah. If we really be realistic, like right now, maybe some of the brothers sisters, I know it's the evening, some of them have got their comfort food after Galinayan, but you know
Hmm.
what? Gotta watch out what you're eating, and I keep reiterating, health is wealth. Health is wealth. We're
Yeah,
only
for
gonna
sure.
realize this. Well, when we talk, the only time we take these things for granted, when you're in the doctor and he's telling you, "Yo, you've got certain things,"
Yeah, of
then you're
course.
gonna be
That's
like,
when
"What
you
the?"
sort of get a
Then
shock
the
into
regret.
reality.
It's gonna be shocking. It's gonna be shocking, especially with a high rate of some of these with the poor dietary. It is correlated and kind of linked to high rate in cancer as well, and that is
That
hitting
is
our
true.
community and on a big scale as well. There's a lot of people get this. They. I don't know whether it's again, sister. I don't know whether it's we're not aware whether we're taking it for granted, whether we just don't give a shit. Out of my Somali
Mhm.
again, and I think that's what it is. And then you're gonna only realize more like kof mako wayal time when you open up.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of people, unfortunately, they do get a shock into reality with a lot of various diseases that are a result of bad eating habits from a very
Mm-hmm,
young age. And so it's good to sort of keep an eye on your children's diet, especially, and what they
mm-hmm,
eat in school as well,
mm-hmm,
and during those times in between meals. and such, and to also encourage them and make it sort of a common theme to exercise and to eat healthily or choose healthier options when deciding what to eat. And you can do that through little changes, like through yourself, because kids sort of adopt the nature of their parents. And if you are a parent and you don't sort of take notice of what you eat, and you find yourself snacking a lot more than you're supposed to, then your child will take on those behaviors as well throughout life, and it will be more difficult to change these behaviors as they grow older.
And the rate of I think, especially, I think we live in the most obese nation in Europe as well. I think the UK got voted the most obese nation in Europe as well. Especially with all this GM food that especially the other day when I do some type of mentoring, I'm looking at some of the Somali kids all the way with I don't know whether it's because of lack of going out, whether it's lack of safety, whether it's the social network, or kind of Somali guys and girls, they've all become also weighing on at a young age. So I'm thinking to myself, raw, like slow down, young man or young sister. And that's very hard to tell someone that, especially at a young age like that, where you've got a lot of self-esteem, you've got low self-esteem, your body image as well, because we live in a society of Instagram and social media where everyone's trying to do this fake image as well. So I think that's kind of
important to. Yeah, that's why it's very important to us positive body images and the healthy diets and what a healthy body looks like, because whether we like it or not, our children are subject to all these images in the media and such, and it does alter their views about themselves and can cause to lead to sort of things like depression and anxiety and low self-esteem, even body dysmorphia, where they feel uncomfortable in their own body, so to speak. And
do you speak about that body dysmorphia? What is that? That's the first time I'm hearing about it all over.
It's basically where you feel out, like sort of how to explain it? You don't feel comfortable with your own body, and you feel the need to change at certain aspects. It is a distinct mental disorder, and it is mostly preoccupied with so the person is preoccupied with the image of a physical defect in the mirror, for example, things that other people can't see, especially, and they, for example, feel ugly or they avoid social exposure, or they wear and such, and don't want to be seen in public, and sort of lead to high use of plastic surgery, which you are seeing in women, especially in the world now.
And that can lead to depression as well, all of this.
Yeah,
and that's all correlating to, and it was correlating to poor dietary.
And then, of course, poor dietary, probably low self-esteem. You can get it could lead to what's it called? It sort of skipped my mind. But where you sort of vomit out your food. I forgot what the name was for it. Sorry.
Oh, it was bulimia.
Yes, bulimia, that's the one. Thank you.
Bulimic.
Bulimic. Yes, you could cause to become bulimic, and that in itself has a lot of physical and mental issues that come with it, along with anorexia. Sorry.
Anorexia. So yeah, that is true. True. So we do. Like we've been focusing on one side of the scale. Let's try to focus on the other side of the scale with bulimia and anorexia. I remember a lot of us growing up. I grew up like borderline anorexic until I got to a certain age in it. Yeah, like, and I think I wouldn't say I had a body image problem, but I was really, really skinny. You get I'm from like literally, when your bones like proper like them gohorti looking guys. Like literally marker.
What do you think What do you think brought it about then? If it wasn't body dysmorphia,
I don't even
perhaps
know. I think it was just poor.
perhaps
I
other
think it was
people
poor
can relate.
I think for me it was just poor dietary. Maybe it's the makeup of Somali makanyar high. When I was
Mhm.
growing up, a lot of us used to be skinny, like proper, the bomb and hunch, yeah.
That is
And this is
true.
when
Yeah.
that's when I'm looking at this young generation. I'm doing mentoring and now and again, I look at them and I
Mhm.
see them all. You go 3, 4 times our size, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I can get into that because though some of them really, really, and then yeah, I don't know, anorexia. Me used to, I wouldn't say I was anorexia, but I was just borderline skinny, skinny. Yes, big up Wudan, my brother. Salam alaikum.
Hey, how you doing, man? Alaikum salam, everyone. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, my brother.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
diabetes, yeah, and
Go for it, go for
depression.
it. Yeah, go for it. Break. Give me a break in it. I'm gonna be 2 minutes here. You and sister hold out the panel for me. Add something to it.
Okay, no worries.
Okay, and I'm not good at these stuff, but I'll just talk about my experience. And I've had sleeping problems, and I used to take tablets to go to sleep.
Okay.
That's the I think that's the only mental problem I've had in my life,
Okay. So
and I haven't really like talked to anyone that has depression and stuff like that, so can't really say much about depression.
okay, fair enough. And is there anything that you sort of wanted to discuss in particular with your insomnia or depression?
Yeah.
Is there something that in particular, sorry, that you wanted to discuss with your
And
previous sleeping problems?
yeah, it was more. Yeah, I don't know what brought it about. I don't know. It just happened. I remember I was young at the time. Most of us were doing we were taking drugs, alcohol, stuff like that, and I think that brought on a low level psychosis,
That is
low
quite
level
common, to
of
be fair. And
yeah.
it is a quite
I
common
think they
theme
call
in
it
our Somali community as well.
yeah. I forgot what they called it, stimulated and psychosis or something like that. Anyway. Yeah, and I think that led to nightmares, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what kind of like put me off sleeping, or why my sleeping problems became a thing.
Alcohol-induced psychosis.
No, no
Sorry, you
drug
said
induced
alcohol and drugs.
cannabis
Drugs
induced
and well, to be
psychosis.
fair,
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol are the same thing, really. and well, to be fair, alcohol has become quite a common theme in our community as well, which is something we sort of brush under the rug too, as well as frequent recreational use of drugs. But how
Mm.
did you sort of overcome these symptoms?
What symptoms? The psychosis or and insomnia?
Well,
And
both
what
really.
more? And well, the psychosis, I just stopped doing drugs. And
Hmm.
the sleeping problems, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think they just gradually just went away. I still have nightmares sometimes. I mean, everyone has nightmares, I guess, but
Hmm.
and yeah, most nights I can just sleep easy. It's no problem.
And was there like any changes in your diet, perhaps, or day-to-day activities that may have helped with your sleeping patterns?
Yeah, yeah, diet was probably a help. Yeah, yeah, like eating healthy, fruits and veg, vitamins, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, that probably helped. I didn't even think of it that way. That probably did help.
That is quite good. Uh, um, Is there anything else that you wanted to add with the regards to drugs and the cause of psychosis, and how these symptoms were brought about, or what the symptoms are for the others that might be interested?
Your mic's doing this weird thing where it goes loud and low, and well, and the things I said boy about, those are the main things I boy about, I guess. And
sorry, just perhaps touch on a few of the symptoms that you would get.
Symptoms.
Or ways that you could spot psychosis for our other listeners that do use recreational drugs.
Well, the biggest one is paranoia, and then later I did start like hearing voices and stuff, I think. Not sure. It was a long time ago. It was a very long time ago.
Well, that is actually quite a common theme with drug-induced psychosis. Some people are seen to develop illnesses such as schizophrenia, where you do develop multiple personalities, and also disassociation as well, which we touched on.
What is schizophrenia? I haven't really looked into that. What is that? What?
It's where somebody may have different personalities that they sort of adopt in result of perhaps traumatic experiences that they went through. And there's a lot of other conditions related to schizophrenia, like bipolar disorder, psychosis, which you went through yourself, and a dissociative identity disorder, which we touched on earlier, where has become actually quite a common theme within the Somali community in present day.
Well, guys, why do you think that is? Do you think that's the trauma? Like, I don't know. Why do you think that is? If that's a common theme, understand people.
I think,
listen, brothers and sisters, there must be a correlation. Look, from my background, what we went through here, dispersal, Dagal, this, Go ahead, brother and sister, come through.
Yeah, it could be a multitude of things, actually. It can't just be one thing. And in terms of...
I think, like, as...
Go on.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was lost in my thoughts. I had nothing to...
Okay, no worries. I was just going to add to what Khaled said here about relocation. I believe as we fled from sort of turmoil from our homeland, we acquired a few other disadvantages as well while we settled into the West as asylum seekers. And these include severe sort of psychological trauma, of course, that will remain with us for the rest of our lives. And there is other issues as well, like being a racial minority. We are subject to disadvantages stemming directly from racial discrimination and religious discrimination as well. And being Muslim in a Christian country brings about its own sort of issues that can, if not treated or acknowledged, turn into mental health, develop mental health issues that we have. I find that upon arrival, we sort of lack the tools required to cope with these, to cope socially, and to effectively sort of compete in the workforce and establish a place for us as a family and such. And since our degrees and high education prior to arrival in these Western countries was not recognized at the time. This had a huge effect, I suppose, on our ability to improve our conditions financially, which obviously has an impact on our general well-being and mental health.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us have been forced to accept decisions beneath our skill set, which can seem demeaning and such for us. And a lot of us have to go back to school to relearn things that we already know, which can have an impact on your financial status. You can't work as much if you're studying, and there's a lot of sacrifices being made by fathers, especially who tend to be the breadwinners in our society, as we do have a sort of a general neutral family foundation going on in the Somali community. So since they're made to sort of like make these sacrifices, it can have an impact on your mental health as well. So because you're not living out your own aspirations as everybody has different dreams and aspirations as individuals, and it can be daunting on some.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of look at it like I kind of look at the good side of it. I mean, with struggles, it can help you get stronger and better, and it can boost your performance. I mean, and I tend to think of people who struggle more tend to be stronger characters. They tend to and not break down so easily and stuff like that. So I kind of look at struggles as kind of a good thing in it, and funny sort of way myself. And
the general sort of misconception that we've adopted as a society as a whole, but it can obviously make you stronger when you're faced with multiple adversities and struggles in life. You do equip yourself with a different mentality of but that mentality does include isolation as well, in order to protect oneself from encountering these experiences again, which can in turn work against you from developing and being able to use these experiences, whether they be bad, as good examples on how to make yourself stronger. If you can't really talk about them openly, then they're just sort of stored away as bad experiences, and in turn can be like sort of bad triggers as well, which bring about anxiety. But yeah, in general, I do believe they do make us stronger, but it's how we sort of deal with these issues and how we talk about these issues in order to be able to make them better for our mental health and for our health in general.
And so and are there a lot of Somalis? And what would you say the percentage of Somalis living in England? How much of them do you think suffer from mental illness, like depression?
I think we all suffer from some type of. I'm talking about the first generation that moved here. We all suffer from some type of mental issues. Yeah, especially PTSD, because we were faced with a lot of horrible violence and murder and rape and a lot of things that were prevalent in during the war, and this really impacted our first generation, especially when they moved here. And but with the younger Somalis, the second generation, whether they've lived in Somalia and moved here or or the diaspora that have been born outside of Somalia, they've sort of acquired their own list of issues that directly stem from things like culture clash and difficulties integrating within societies that they've moved to.
Yeah.
And we're trying to hold.
Guys, sorry, sis. I've got a new panelist. Hey, Somali, big up. We've got some new guys coming. Alaikum assalam. You can bring me. I wanted you to come on, A Somali, specifically for this topic. We've got a new panelist. 1 second. Hello.
And
Hello?
he's not Somali. I think he said he's not Somali. He's an English. So.
Hello, Jake. Jakins, you want to speak up? Hello. I don't know if he's there. Sorry. Hello.
I think he has his mute on there or something.
Yeah, I think he's on mute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Greetings
Hi,
and salutations. Yes.
Huh? Hello.
Yeah, go on, talk.
I unmuted. Okay. And I hear the echo. I'm trying to fix it, but it's not going away.
I think you need to cut off you.
Whoop. Hello.
You might need to get off the YouTube channel that might be open.
Yeah.
Hello. Sorry, guys. I was just having trouble myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Somali, welcome to the pitch, man. Your brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You want to break something down for us? Because when I met you earlier this year, you told me something about, and I think it's related to the subject as well, bro.
Yeah.
So do you want to share and give some insight, like, with our sister? She wants to bring this out into highlight. Go ahead, my bro.
I was gonna say, yeah, man. As you know, Khalid, anyway, I got diagnosed with diabetes type 1 last March.
Last March, yes. First time, innit?
So, yeah, first time really. Never really didn't know the symptoms really. To be honest, I just knew that some parts of my family have it anyway. But my one, it was like I just went for a routine checkup, really, for something else, and then I came out, and then they were like, "Oh, we figured that you got, you might have it." So they did like further tests, but like the thing was like it was like hard to get used to, like some of the life-changing stuff, really, like get used to it, really, like by you can't, you gotta watch your carbs.
Food. I know.
Yeah.
I went to go out eat with you a couple of times where you're like,
Yeah.
and imagine just going through that for a year. That must be.
Yeah. No, I got used to it now, to be honest, bro. I mean, I watched, like, I've done my whole thing anyway, really. So I basically watch, like, what I eat. There's a book that's called Calories and Carbs, where basically, like, there was no more, how we do it, Somalis, anyway. We have that, a big plate or something in it. So there was no more of that, really. It had to be like,
no more none of that.
Yeah, so everything has to be moderate. I mean, it has to be like middle. Like make sure it's not too much of something. So yeah.
But Barawi said to you, "A Somali, could it be reversed with diet, guys?" That's a question for the panel as well, and A Somali.
Yeah,
definitely. Sorry. Go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, sorry, sis. You go ahead. Sorry.
No, please go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, it's got to do with the diet, but also genetics. It could be also with your family, and also the other thing is your health. Like, like the brother I think was saying before, it's sleeping problems. Like if you don't get enough sleep, like different kind of problems can happen, but it's more dietary and genetics.
That's true. That's true. That's kind of, and it kind of puts that in perspective. Like, imagine a year ago, 2 years ago, you would have ate what you want. Now it's just extra caution. And would you say dietary? What about exercising? Someone in my broski.
No. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I do a lot of exercising and stuff. Yeah. Also, like if you don't do not exercise and you're just sitting around, you develop issues with like your kidneys or an issue like even your legs. I've had people's legs like swelling up, have swelled up and stuff like that. So you get different kind of, you might have your eyes might be damaged too. It comes with different. I mean, my one, especially my one, is type 1. So this one is when your pancreas is finished, really. To be honest, yeah.
So, is it type with type 1? Is it, how does the insulin feel? Have you ever had some of the symptoms where you passed away, comatized?
You
Inshallah,
do
I
have
wish I don't have it. I don't want, because I've heard
I did have.
stories.
Oh, I've had hypo, something called a hypo, where your blood sugar like goes below 2. If it goes below 2, and you don't have any like glucose, that's what you need to have really, in order for you, like so I keep like little jelly beans or or like a Lucozade around in my house, innit? So
Yeah.
just in case them days come about, really. So yeah.
How does it, brother? Asma, how does it feel knowing that at any time that you could become unbalanced and you can? Is it daunting on you? Does it play something? Is it in the back of your head?
And at the beginning, bro, it did play like because when I first I didn't know about this thing, so like like I had to do my own research and everything like that, and the hospital and my GP would help me out, like like yeah. So but I always carry a sweet or basically a sweet or a Lucozade with me, really. I mean, if you see me now, like I'll be carrying maybe like a Lucozade bottle or a jelly bean just in case, if like. But I made sure anyway, really, because I have my insulins, like 3 times a day, sometimes 4, depending on how much I eat, really.
Definitely. Ruweyda, Wallah, you got any questions for brother A Somali? I'd just like to big up G Marley. Thank you for Wallah. Thank you, my brother. Big up to yourself. Big up to yourself. Thank you for the super chat. Shout out to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, type 1 diabetes is a frequent one, but not so frequent within our community. But I'm just going to go over some sort of symptoms of type 1 diabetes, and also the differences in insulin that's used for diabetics with this illness. And so the symptoms include feeling thirsty, of course, and excessive urination, as with other types of diabetes, and constant fatigue and losing weight without trying, which is a good one to keep an eye on when a pre-diabetic or if you're worried about developing. And also, of course, cuts and grazes taking too long to heal. And in type 1 diabetics, like the brother said, your pancreas no longer makes insulin, so you are to inject it in order to control your body's blood sugar level. And there are different types of insulin, and then how to use them. And so there's one where you take once a day. This is called background and basal insulin, which is long lasting, and basically means that it gives your body the insulin it needs, whether or not you eat during the day.
Yeah.
And basal insulin should actually keep your blood glucose or blood sugar at a level stable overnight and in between meals. And the other one is insulin that you take with your food. And this is called mealtime or bolus insulin, which is fast acting compared to the other. And what it does, it helps reduce the rise in blood sugar caused by eating or drinking. And it's usually taken before a meal or a snack or a drink, which has carbs in it, which is very important. And yeah, and type 1 is different from type 2, so it can be difficult to understand its symptoms and what it brings forth.
Yeah. And the life but like brother Somali said, if you can manage it, you can manage it. Like some people are saying type 2 is lifestyle, you can reverse it.
Yeah,
but say
you
if
can
type
reverse.
1 can you work around it? And Somali, what I wanted to link this to is, was there any times in your life after this incident, did you ever feel low? Did this ever get you down, depressed?
No, really. It a little bit it did, but then I was like, we're all Muslims, innit? So I thought, this is Qadar Allah. Some things are you can't. I mean, your reaction, obviously, you react like we're all human beings, innit? You react to some situations, innit? But then when you take a step back and you got like, okay, my reaction wasn't good, so. But yeah, but like I mean, I had like family members, for the support, ones that have been through it, so yeah,
so having that family sort of environment around you sort of helped you,
yeah, and also like I made
Mhm.
connections in in the hospital with the the diabetics clinic and stuff like. So like every 2 months or so we have these Zoom like kind of like
discussions,
discussions and
meetings.
stuff like meetings like where we discuss like about the whole thing, how everyone's finding it, if anyone needs support. So that's the extra other thing, alhamdulillah, really, for that kind of support, really,
Alhamdulillah. That's big. And I think like, what do you think? You see, in our community, do you think there needs to be like there's Somali diabetic communities where they could come out, speak up, and you got this, I got this, it's the best way, and like sister Ruweyda, it's refreshing for sister to take this on board and take this challenge up. What do you think? Do you think there should be more type of community awarenesses going on about this?
There should be, like more awareness, especially in the Somali, because we look at our dietary. Really, let's be honest, our dietary is abysmal, to be honest. Like, I mean, like we're having pasta, rice, a lot of too much carbs, and there's not enough balance in between that. Like, even tea, people putting in like 3 or 4 sugars, really,
I know. With me, bro, it's the fizzy drinks, bro. I drink liters and liters of fizzy drinks.
Oh, is it? No, I've stopped that anyway myself. Really, I've stopped even having that. Like,
that's what I'm really scared of.
Yeah, I just have. My whole thing is like water, and that's it. Really, and then like green tea, and that's it. Really, I don't have any of that fizzy. Kind of changed up. Really, to be honest, like.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that.
How can fizzy drinks and what's so bad about them? I don't understand.
Sister
sugar
Ruweyda, do you want to
level.
break it?
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah,
sugar
yeah.
levels on you know the can, the can alone, yeah. Wallahi, one nahisa, Wu-Tang, how much sugar's in the can alone?
Oh, the
Yeah,
sugar.
imagine drinking, yeah, the sugar levels on the, Sister Ruweyda, you know more about that?
Yeah, there is actually quite extensive amount of sugar in canned drinks, and as you know, sugar is can be quite detrimental to your health, and could lead to not only diabetes but things such as heart disease. And there has been a link to excessive sugar and low moods as well, which does cause depression. Sorry, so it is a. Sorry, go
And
on.
how about an energy drink? Do they contain a lot of sugar, or do they affect diabetes in any way, like bringing on
Yeah, of
diabetes?
course. Well, the
Even,
main aspect of yeah, go on.
I'm
Sorry.
hearing, sorry, I'm hearing even the diet drinks as well, they contain a
It's
lot of
like
Yeah,
substitute or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
yeah, they use
And
a lot of sweeteners to sort of substitute for the sugar, and they do get you with that whole no added sugar because sweeteners are not really listed as a type of sugar really. They're more of a, how you say, um sorry, the word has sort of missed me there, but they're not seen as sugar, so they do get away with the sort of the advertisement loophole in drinks as well. So we get sort of confused and made gullible into buying these products that are found to be quite bad for us.
How about energy drinks though? Because I'm drinking one now. I drink them a lot, and
No.
they
do
also
they?
have sugar in it. Really, they might have
Yeah.
even more sugar in it. Really, to be honest, like there's
So
there's a
yeah, I'm hearing the sugar thing is like cocaine, man. It's worse. It's one of the worst drugs on the planet Earth.
yeah, wallahi, it's
Sugar.
addictive. Yeah.
It's addictive. Wallah, it's a mazza. Especially the everyday food that we intake with sugar in it. Wallah, wallahi, don't turn.
Yeah.
I
But what
started
about brown
adding.
sugar? Abdi said something about brown sugar, malab, honey, cinnamon. Is that alternatives to replace them?
Or how about honey?
I need to look into that one. I'm not really sure. Really, maybe yeah. I think because the honey over here is processed, isn't it? You know, it's not
Yeah, that's the thing with
natural.
honey. You have to be
Yeah.
careful with
Yeah.
'cause a lot of them
Yeah.
are disguised as honey, but they're usually just sugar syrup, which is basically just sugar.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways that you can stop sugar addiction, really. One of them is to obviously opt into using sweeteners or brown sugar instead of white
Yeah.
sugar,
Yeah.
and to drink more water as well. The sugar can cause a lot of dehydration in the body, which can lead to a lot of other issues as well,
Yeah.
like kidney failure and such. And your kidneys are already sort of a target when you're a diabetic. So it's more important for you to be consuming twice as much water. Yeah, and other things like going out for a walk or taking a shower or getting lost into your work or a book even can help you overcome sugar addiction. And then perhaps changing your diet in general as well, and looking for ways to make healthy eating interesting and adapt it and tailor it to your personal needs instead of following this sort of collective diet culture that we have going on now, where one has to starve themselves in order to gain this ideal look. And that's the problem I think that we have now is not only as Somalis but as just humans in general, that especially with the women, that diet and culture and healthy eating is strongly linked to body image and looking good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason we sort of diet and look up. We're sort of trying to all attain this this summer body, you know, that we can show off. And I think that has a huge impact not only on our choices that we make in what we eat, but also our mental health as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it sort of factors into the whole low self-esteem and depression, and there's been an incline as well in a lot of Somali youth that have sort of resorted to self-harm instead of being open about their issues, because they don't want to be labeled, of course, as insane or something within the community.
Chile.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many
Someone
names for
asked
it.
us on the Aden Ahmed said, "What about lean?" I don't know. Lean is that.
What's that?
I don't even know. I think it's that. You know that you know that drug that all these little kids are taking.
No.
The Sprite and you know the what's it called?
Codeine,
You
is
know
it codeine
the
and syrup?
codeine? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
That's got sugar in there as well. That's got bare sugar in there.
Yeah. That's
I've
probably
not
got like.
heard of this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a pandemic. Yeah, you know the young generation comes today. They're mixing all these, you know, prescription drugs and all of this, you know, all the syrup, you know, all of that. They mix it together
Okay, I see. Yeah.
and make this drink out of it, and then they loot that. They're off their heads anyway. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah. But anything you're mixing with Sprite, you're putting, obviously, innit? Obviously.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
Yeah, you just have to remember that a lot of these processed drinks have a lot of sugar and preservatives in them. So
even fruit
whatever
drinks
you,
as well. Even earlier we were talking about fruit
especially
drinks as
fruit
well.
drinks, yeah.
Fruit
Fruit
drinks
drinks
are
are
not
the main
safe as well.
cause, actually, of diabetes, to be honest. You know, a lot of
Fruit
people.
drinks.
Yeah, we tend to forget that once you sort of blend these fruits, that it releases a lot more sugar than it would as you were to eat it by itself. And
Do you think
when
what
you
Rashid
forget
Farah? Do you think what Rashid Farah said here is he said I fast 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And I'm very healthy. What do you think about fasting once a day, once a week, or twice a month?
fasting is very good for your body. It's a great way to detox all the chemicals that we have. Yeah, and it's within our religion as well to fast twice
Mondays
a week.
and Thursdays.
Yeah,
Mondays
exactly.
and Thursdays.
So,
It's sunnah, innit?
Yeah, the sunnah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's
And
actually a
alhamdulillah,
lot of...
Ramadan's coming. Alhamdulillah, Ramadan's coming really soon as well.
Definitely,
Ramadan's gonna help us. Let's get into that.
Yeah, and there's actually a big link in Islam and food. You know, as you know, we're a country who follows Islam, and our teaching set out before us, and some of these practices, for those who practice, would know that the Quran doesn't restrict itself to merely mentioning and the permissible and the impermissible foods, like the halal and the not halal. But it goes to the full extent of giving us useful tips regarding a balanced diet, which is all the useful ingredients required for us to grow and strengthen and repair our bodies. And being a religion, it teaches us
the discipline
followers and
of and
believers.
salah as well.
Yeah, and the method of eating as well, not just
the
what
method.
to eat. Yeah, and we are advised to be moderate in every aspect of life. And and with direct reference from the Quran regarding moderation in eating and drinking, it goes on further to clarify the meaning of moderation in the tradition, which is reported to have said that our worst weaknesses are in fact our bellies. So if you must eat, you should make sure you delegate room for food, water, and air, ideally equally into thirds. So there's a space for all three. There are other many ways, and other entries in the Quran that expresses the importance of taking care of our bodies, and it's like through refraining from foods and practices that might pollute the stomach with various diseases like colon cancer and diabetes and such. Yeah. Also Alzheimer's, which does with bad diet.
Alzheimer's, is that dementia? Walala? Same thing,
Yeah, it's a
Alzheimer's
sort
and
of
dementia.
Yeah.
But you know,
Because
since
it's
we, of
affecting
course,
our. Go ahead, Walala.
no, yeah, since of course I was going to say that we're all sort of our own entities. Some of us choose to follow.
Hello, your mic's breaking up. Sorry, Walala. Do you know? Hello, sis.
That we derive for ourselves, so to
Sis, do
speak,
you want to
that may
repeat
not
that bit
include
again?
Islamic
Do you want to repeat that?
practice.
Do you want to repeat? Hello,
Say,
Ruweyda. Walala, you're breaking up.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, go repeat all of that again. We couldn't hear you, Walala. Your mic.
Hello. I'm trying to figure it out. We're all our sort of own entities. Some of us choose to follow a path that we derive for us. That may not include Islamic practices and such. And for those who do choose to drink and smoke, you should also be aware that you are obviously at a greater risk for developing diabetes and heart disease and such, and also mental health issues that stem from
substance abuse,
from drug, alcohol.
Yeah, substance
Yes,
abuse.
exactly.
Yeah, come on, don't be shy, sis. Some of our community are suffering from substance abuse.
Yeah, we are, exactly. And I think it comes from the ability to not be able to talk about these issues. So we sort of find different segues, I guess, or coping mechanisms to sort of cope with our mental health issues that we might have. And it's quite sad, really, to resort to alcoholism or substance abuse simply because you may be stigmatized as crazy or such.
But do you think sometimes people lead that to it's the easy way to cope with this?
I think a lot of us are sort of forced into that direction. And we're not really given a different, especially when you see it as a view from somebody who grows up in a Western country, from a young age as well. You sort of don't have anywhere to relate to, because you go outside and you see a lot of different places from different diversities, but they all sort of have their own needs and needs are customized to them, and we don't tend to have that in our community. So we have to find a different outlet, and so far the outlet has been drug and alcohol use and sort of gang related violences as well. That has had a major increase over the years.
That's true, sis. That is true. That is true. It is true. But how's it correlated to diabetes? I wanna hear that factor. I wanna be educated on that, sis.
Well, as you know, drinking does increase your blood sugar with as does everything else that you eat. But excessive alcohol, especially binge drinking, which a lot of us do, especially the younger generation, it decreases your blood sugar levels, and sometimes it does cause it to drop to dangerous levels, especially for those that do have type 1 diabetes. And it's also good to know that drinks like beer and sweet wine and cocktails contain a lot of carbs and sugar, which raises your blood sugar quite a lot, meaning heavier drinkers over time can reduce the body's sensitivity to insulin, which is not a very good thing, since it can trigger type 2 diabetes. And just making small changes in your drinking habits could actually save your life. You know, for instance, to stop binge drinking, and this kind of drinking is actually the reason for more than like thousands of alcohol-related deaths, including general.
Yeah.
And a lot of thing is, a lot of people forget is that drinking does lead to mental, memory
Health
problems.
disorder. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can actually throw off your heartbeat as well, which could make you a greater risk for heart attack and stroke. So, but with that being said, there is actually has been proven some benefits of alcohol. If you do drink moderately, it can actually provide you some protection for your heart. And a few studies have actually concluded that some
Yeah, but
moderate
we are
alcohol intake.
Muslim. You know, no one
Yeah, we
sister.
are,
That's
but
something that
I'm not
we
saying
don't
that we
really
should
have to.
start. But it's for
Nah.
those who
Let's get
already
that
do
over
drink.
accent, innit? For those that use it, we
I
need
think
to
I
be
think
preaching.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead, Wooding.
I think what God said is there's benefits and there's and harm in it, but the harm outweighs the benefits.
Yeah, exactly.
He did say there are benefits in it, but the harm outweighs it ultimately. So that's where it's cut out, I guess. That's why we don't do it. We're not told to do it. So.
Well, we shouldn't really, but of course we do all decide our own fate, really, so to speak.
Yeah.
But for those who do drink it, if you drink it moderately, particularly red wine, it actually has a connection with decreased risk of heart problems, and especially in people with type 2 diabetes. But yeah, overall, we should be avoiding it completely. But that's just being put out there for those who do,
For those
so they
who
can have
do,
a understanding. Since it is another taboo subject, really, isn't it?
If you
Accepting,
do drink it moderately, that's the message.
yeah,
that's
everything in
we're
moderation.
not promoting it. This is the thing.
no, we're saying
Because
if you already
you're
do it.
just speaking about Ramadan, it's kind of a bit of a whoa. Whether and I kind of got rid of the team. This guy is kind of crazy. It seems like it's something that I find. I don't know. It's a mazza. It's a mazza. You're saying it's got health benefits, but if it's halal, can you find it halal without all the alcohol in there? Because at the end of the day, it's just out of date, red sort of. It's just grapes, isn't it? If you think about it, wine. I don't
Well, to
know.
be
I'm
honest, I
not
would
fermented. I
avoid
don't
it
know. I
altogether.
don't.
The
Yeah.
the benefits don't really. It's not something that you should make a sacrifice for your health for. Because from alcohol comes a lot of other issues like cancer and Alzheimer's and dementia and heart disease as well if you don't drink moderately. So I think all of that sort of
And
makes
the risk
you.
of addiction as well.
Sorry.
The risk of addiction as well.
Oh
Like
yeah, of
some
course, yeah.
have an addictive personality, so they might not even be able to do it moderately. So,
of course, that plays a
And I
huge,
think
huge
that,
factor.
and I think a lot of our problems. That's the thing, with some of our brothers and sisters that may be in that path, might have a problem like Drew Tang saying the addictive personality to it, and not realizing the psychological damage that they're doing to themselves.
And it's the fact that we can't speak problems like addiction and
But the
it's
thing
the
is,
fact.
see, the thing about it's how you speak about it. Wallah, run town accent. Because with our deen, wallah, it does say, I've told our story. You shouldn't openly talk about sinning. But if it's an
Yeah, but it's
addiction,
not.
this is where I need to, the shayukh, or maybe I'm not really a deen expert. Because say someone's got an addiction problem, or wallah, in it, yeah. For them not to speak openly about it, I don't. It's a bit of a tough one for me.
Yeah, it is a bit of a difficult topic to discuss, but it's not necessarily somebody talking about their sin. It's more. Well, the first thing you have to remember is that depression in itself is an illness. So it's another way of somebody being ill, but more inclining towards mental illness than physical, really, even though it does show a lot of physical symptoms that can be mistaken for other illnesses. But in order for somebody to be able to speak about it openly, we need to be able to listen without judgment, and that can be proven difficult, or has been proven difficult as well within our society, because we're very quick to judge. And I don't know if it comes from personal triggers or perhaps it triggers like PTSD or past traumatic experiences. When we're faced with these young individuals who come to us in aid of psychiatric help, or whether it's over the years, that sort of plays as a barrier in openly discussing these topics. But
if you've been openly taught, yeah, not to be like, openly. This is what I was trying to head with this one, yeah. When there's opening up of your problems, such per se as addiction, or to speak up about addiction, if you've been told speaking about your problem, if you say, for example, you drink. So some of our brothers and sisters, sometimes I mean,
yeah.
Bring them back on the right path and cleanse them from substance abuse, the mountain, yeah. But if you've been told not to speak about opening your sins, because it is a sin, isn't that a bit of a difficult one? Say if it is an addiction, Sister Ruweyda. Because that is for me, maybe so. There's where people
but
might
it's the
struggle.
same.
I think, and if I may interject, I think when they're saying like don't open and review your sins open, I think they mean like, and they don't mean it in the sense of like you're getting psychiatric help or you're getting counseling or talking to someone about your problems. I don't think they mean it in that way. I think they mean it in the way like, and you're boasting about it, or you're saying like you're fine with it and stuff like that. That's
But
I
Wu-Tang,
agree
if
with
you've been, it's not narrative. I kind of see your sentiment. I kind of lean towards where you're coming from. But do you see how that's some Waladin to Hadali? Because maybe one of their daughters or sons going through some of these addictions where they can't speak up because they're sinning what them be in there. Do you see the other side to it? Do you see the other side?
Listen, there's always going to be people that judge, and there's going to be people that don't judge you and just see you as a human being. You make mistakes, and the people that they may come across that judge them. I mean, I'll just advise them to talk to someone else about it. Like, there's going to be some people that don't judge you, and there's going to be some people that judge you.
Yeah, and we need to sort of overcome this whole stigma around speaking out in general about mental health and other things that the young generation or women in fact would face within our community. There is actually a number of women who choose to speak up about the issues that come with, for example, misogyny in our community, and which then lead to sort of mental health issues for both women and men growing up, and they tend to be shunned or silenced by their elders in the community. And I think many of you have heard of Maylon Ali. She's an author and sort of an activist for the women of the Somali community. And she was bombarded with countless death threats and cyberbullying from our Somali brothers and sisters, and all because she was the first number of women to speak up about sexual harassment in our community, and she has helped countless victims and such. And she wrote this great book called "I Cannot Be Silenced," and this is a little quote from her book, which kind of goes over what we've been discussing, and it goes, what you will read. about in these pages has not just been my experiences, but those of many women who are afraid to share their shameful secrets. Sorry, and my message is in two folds. One is to encourage women to shed this cloak of shame that they have been forced to wear, both by men and women who believe it is their right and privilege to steal their spirits. And two is to inform and educate people of the Western world who can join us in our fight for freedom. And what it briefly explains is that others cannot feel your passion for change, especially if they ignorant of your experience and lifetime of pain. And then there is no such thing as a silent cause that we've sort of collectively come to believe as a society. And it's in fact very damaging, and speaking out is one of the ways to
Why do you think that is,
heal your
Walala?
soul.
Why do you think that is, Sister Ruweyda?
Well, it can come from a number of things, most of which is stemmed with our belief that somebody with mental health issues or with mental health issues or women who choose to speak up against violence that occurred within their homes and such is something brought about by the jinn or by not practicing religion, and it's then puts this burden on our women, and also it silences them as well, which later impacts a lot of areas of their life in education and the outside world, and in going through the process of individuation, and which is quite important to every individual. Is basically what makes you an individual. And when you're sort of denied these accesses to being a normal human being, so to speak, it has a great impact on you mentally and physically.
You're right, Walala. That is true. That is true. It's true. Well, we're getting there, Walala. Do you think we're getting there? Conversations like this, and do you think it helps?
Yeah, definitely.
I think it helps. How do you think we can start promoting stuff like this in our community, in our communities per se? What do you think? And what do you think?
Is to sort of learn how to listen without judgment, and that especially goes for the elder community, where we sort of acclimated this sort of belief that we give more authority to those of superiority, I suppose, in life, like your elders and such, and which is good, and it does promote teachings of respect and such, but it sort of doesn't allow our youngsters to be able to voice their opinions as well, which can be detrimental to their character growing up, especially. Would anyone else like to add to?
Sorry, just cut off. Sorry, my internet's acting up.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Vegeta's comment. Alcohol consumption increased among my brethren after June 2014 large bear.
Muhammad Noor says it's a good convo.
Yeah, I think we need to have these, discussions, like, having like, open, like, like lectures on it, like, an awareness, like put it out there really, that, this is some of the issues facing our community, and it's very much like up there with you know, depression and, you know, I mean, mental illness and stuff, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think we really do need to dismantle the taboo subjects.
Yeah. But I don't understand why it would make. I never really got why these kind of things, like, you know, like discussions, like, are taboo, or like, why don't people want to? I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about, you know. You have issues, someone can help you. This person next to you might have the same issues that you have, or, you know, I just don't understand it really. It's like, I mean, come on. Is I don't know if people think that they're bigger than that they can't or will never go through mental illness or something, you know.
Because I don't know, because it's been made a stigma.
Yeah.
It's because it's been made a stigma. Maybe because, remember, me and this, I think Sister Ruweyda said it earlier. We only have one term in our culture. That's it.
Yeah.
There's none of these terms.
This is the problem.
None of that.
The thing is, they like to the problem with our you know, Somalis, or our culture anyway, is that in our vocabulary or anything, solution is not there. It's not there. You know, it's like, oh, it's like blame. Oh, this is my problem. This is my problem. Da, da, da. But where is the solution? Like, they don't want to tackle tough things. If you can't get, this is the reason why it rises more. Like, if someone bottles up too much, yeah, they're gonna snap one day, innit? So I just think, you know, we need to find solutions, and the best ways is to discuss it, have open, you know, meetings, lectures about it, really, and then the more people would open up, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and you can take a draft out of Africa, but it's still a draft. But if you bring him to London, it's not African. He's gonna go crazy.
You're right.
That's
Yeah.
what I say.
This is the issue, really, to be honest.
I hear you saying you're loving the giraffe analogy.
No, I twisted it though. I twisted it. The draft's gonna go crazy, Cali. It's gonna go crazy.
It's even, Khalid, look, it's even with this, you know, social media itself too, bro. Like, I took a little break, you know. Like, yeah, you know, like 3 months break. Alhamdulillah, like, I managed to get a lot of things done in that time, you know. It's about moderation, you know, like, too much. And then look at taking a step back here and assessing the situation, and then thinking, what's the solution? How can I fix this? You know, the addiction. Like, do I just like sit there and bottle it up? Do I just you know, let it get worse and worse and build it up? It's not really good, really. You know.
Yeah, it's learning to deal with it. It's learning to step up and deal with it. Maybe some of our brothers and sisters don't know when it's time to realize. You hear me?
Yeah. Even like Ramadan coming, you know, this is a good time. It's another good time to maybe take a break. You know,
take a break,
like,
forgive each other, cleanse down your body. You know the ones.
Yeah. You know, make it more peaceful for yourself. You know, and your body. You know, your body has rights over you too. So it's not, you can't abuse it. You know, too much.
That's what it is. That's what it is, wallahi. But at the same time, go ahead, come through.
No, I was gonna say, sorry. And the other thing is, like, another thing is like the scales. You know, that if you put something that's like, say, 5 kilos, on one scale, and then something on the other side, a lot lighter, there's not gonna be no like it's gonna be no balance. You know, like I think moderation is the best way to dealing with a lot of things. Really, not doing too much of something, and and leaving and thinking, this is not right for me. I don't think it's working out. I tried it, did it, and also just talking to people about it, like your issues. Really, I mean, you could just start off with your family. Sit down with family. Look, I've got this issue. Not being too afraid to even talk with family members.
But say some
Friends.
people are just afraid. Say if the family don't know how to cope with it.
I
I
love
feel
that.
that's
Yeah.
unfair.
Inang kegi wu washe.
And I tell you, waxaan ku dhacayo, and it's straight. Let's go to it, and it's the same old remedies. Sometimes you gotta. But then again, where does the self accountability come in as well?
That's the thing. That's what I was saying. That's why you need to
sometimes-
take us. Yeah.
Because I feel like maybe someone, I don't know. What do you guys think of the snowflakiness? Do you think that helps as well? Sometimes, sometimes looks hard to came on in a way.
I mean, yes, on what you call home truths. If you got
some
people
home
around
truths.
you, if you got people around you, that would that got love for you, the ones that tell you tough love, and toughen up, is the ones that you need to keep around you. Again, like that would they're not gonna sugarcoat it and put bare additives and whatnot, in the thing. So it's none of that really, to be honest, But it's also looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking, like, I need to fix up, like, I think you used to say before is that you have to try and better yourself.
Come on.
Like every other day, like, like, but
It is. You have to. In order to better yourself, then you must ascertain what is the problem. Maybe some of the brothers and sisters don't even know if they're depressed. I
that's the
believe
thing.
when I came back, because when I come back from back home and I came back to England, I was like, whoa. The levels of people that are actually going through problems and depression is kind of crazy. Do you guys recommend change your environment? What do you guys think sometimes?
Yeah, a little bit of change, really, to be honest.
What do you guys think of that?
Yeah.
What do you think? Have you ever tried to change the environment or your environment? Like sometimes just bounce out where you're not happy. No, just sometimes just bounce out sometimes. Does that help? Change your environment, fresh scenery?
Yeah. I mean, I used to go every month, like every other month, maybe 2 or 3 like weekends or so. I used to just go Norway, for a bit. Norway,
different scenery.
or different scenery. And then this whole Corona hit, and it's like, and then you can't even leave London now. They're like, they can't with that whole tier thing. Like you can't go into tier 3 or wherever. I was like, no, forget that, man. I need this. I need a change of the scene, man. Countryside. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. It is true. It is true. And on that note, guys, I'm gonna end the show. It's been brilliant. You get me? Big up Sister Ruweyda for coming through. I'll put a link in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother, for having me.
Yeah, definitely. There's a link in the chat. A link's in the description box.
That's nice.
Thank you for coming through. Big up Wudan. Big up A Somali for coming through. Big up everyone in the
thanks
chat.
for having me.
And yeah, man. I hope we did justice for our sister for the topic at hand. And any other topics that you guys want to break down during mental health, or we could look into it.
Yeah, be sure to comment on some topics that we can further discuss next time. I'm sure there's a lot of things that you guys want to hear about or want to talk about, but maybe feel sort of too shy or perhaps to ask. But be sure to comment them if you want some clarification, I suppose.
Please,
sorry.
I've left your thing. I've left your description, and does that link have your Instagram and stuff like that on it? So people want to contact you.
It should do, but I will leave a comment with those details as well.
Yeah, leave that in the comment section. And guys, catch you guys soon. Wanagi wayagi. Then the family dona. Then SS. Big up. See you guys soon. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.